And you've just heard Forever Autumn by Evelyn Laurie, the current single. And I'm delighted to be joined by Evelyn now. Hello, Evelyn.
Hello there, Alistair. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. And thanks for taking the time to have a chat.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I wanted to ask you why cover Forever Autumn, which is a terrific song.
So I think it's just one of those songs I've always loved. And every time it gets to be autumn, that's the song that goes through my head. And I mean, it's not, I mean, generally I work in a kind of jazz genre and it's not jazz, but I got the opportunity to work with a wonderful musician who just infused it with all the jazz that we needed. So, yeah.
For those who don't know, I think it's originally on Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, isn't it? I think that's where it originates from.
Absolutely, yes. It's the only song that wasn't actually written for that production. Right. It was something that had already been in existence. In fact, it's quite interesting because it apparently started out as an advert for Lego, would you believe? So there's a version of it that you can find that's quite different, and it didn't have words and it's much faster and all the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, Justin Hayward did such a wonderful version of it in that production.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a kind of real emotional heart of that whole kind of album, really, isn't it? That song, I think.
Absolutely.
So what can you tell us about your career?
Oh my goodness, how long have we got? We should probably set that out at the start, because I am a bit of a late bloomer, as I like to describe myself. I mean, I've been a lifelong singer. I've been singing since I can remember, since I was 4 probably. When my dad took me by the hand up to the stage for a talent show in Arbroath, and I sang When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. That's one of my earliest memories. But I am essentially shy, so in school I just used to sing in choirs, and or as I got older it'd be, you know, maybe after a few drinks at a party I could be persuaded. But it was really only when I went on a jazz vocal workshop that Fiona Duncan ran.
Oh, yes.
Fiona, who's the kind of grandmummy of jazz in Scotland and now in her 80s, but she used to run these workshops from her lovely wee house on the shores of Loch Long. And it was a very safe space to go and kind of find your own voice, as they say. And of course, I didn't realise at the time that musicians we worked with there, including her partner, Ronnie Ray, like Brian Kellogg, who is, you know, one of the top jazz players, pianists in Britain. So, you know, you'd be working with these people. I just thought all musicians were like that. They were all as good as that, you know. It was a wee bit of an eye-opener to go out into the world and find out they weren't always. But then I started I got hooked on those workshops because it was just a lovely environment. And then I used to go to a jazz open mic in what was the Universal Bar in Glasgow. They had this every month. And there was a house trio and you could take your one song. And I'd be so petrified at times with nerves that I couldn't even move the microphone to get to the right place. But I persevered because it was scary, but I always wanted to do more. And gradually I was doing wee gigs and then bigger gigs. But it was always alongside my day job. Yeah. Because I never felt brave enough to try and kind of, I mean, it's hard to make a living from music.
It is, yeah.
So it's only really 2017, 2018, I brought out my first album, but it got to the stage where it was kind of like, well, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So, I mean, I had been gigging in various places around Glasgow, but I think it just got to the point where, well, in fact, my husband was saying, you know, we've got some savings, just do it. So the first album came out in 2018.
And is it all cover versions you do?
No, it's a combination. I mean, the first album's called A Little Bit of Me, because there are some of my creations in there. But again, because I'm not formally trained in music, I kind of always thought that although I was writing these wee kind of ditties, I didn't really think I was a songwriter. But then I went on a few, I'm a big fan of workshops. So I went on quite a few workshops with the Musicians Union and people like that, and realised, oh yeah, I am creating the tunes and I am writing the words. And okay, I need to have someone else that writes it out for me, but they're still my compositions. So I've kind of got a bit more confidence there. So that first album had 3 of my originals really on there, and the rest were covers, but not all jazz standards. I mean, I like to take songs that are from other genres and just, you know, see what we can do with them, do them our own way.
Well, we'll hear that in a moment, and a great example of that. How do you choose which songs to cover? Is it just purely your own favourites, or ones that'll suit your voice?
Oh, absolutely just my favourites.
Yeah.
Although it's always a bit of a risk, you know, even talking about, well, the one you're going to play and then Forever Autumn. I mean, you're taking other people's favourites as well, you know, so it's a kind of a risk, you know, am I going to do it justice? I mean, there's 1 or 2 that I probably wouldn't touch because they're just so much that person's, you know. Like, for example, Fever is Peggy Lee.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of hard. You know, it's like, when is it an interpretation? When is it just a pastiche? You know, when is it just a straight copy? You know, but my second album, My Scottish Heart, I mean, that's quite different again, because they're not jazz standards at all. I mean, that's old Scottish songs that, you know, again, kind of been singing some of those since I was in primary school. And when I got into jazz, well, particularly there's one on there called the Island Spinning Song, or Hullabackadoo.
Yeah, I remember it myself, yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember singing that when I was about 7 and, you know, swinging along to it then. And when I got into jazz, thinking, oh, I'm sure some of these songs would be great as jazz numbers. But again, you're treading a line, you know, there are some kind of more pure folk musicians who don't really like that to happen. But I kind of think if you don't maybe take these songs in a different direction, maybe they just disappear, you know, which should be a shame.
I think I would hope that people are open, because you treat the songs on My Scottish Heart, you treat them with respect. You know, you're not going in there and having huge jazz saxophone solos through them or anything like that. You know, they're recognisably the original songs, just with your voice, and as you say, there's a jazz aspect to it, but it's not overpowering. Oh,
that's good. That's good to hear. We do try to do it with respect, because I do love the songs. I mean, that's why I get to choose songs that I like.
Yeah, I know. It's a really nice selection of trad Scottish songs, isn't it?
Aye, and some of them not very well known. I mean, there's one on there which I wanted to find some that were maybe a bit more obscure, so I found a site with a whole list of old songs, and I was down at the W when I came across this Woo Me Again, and I thought, what a brilliant title. So pressed on a link, and it comes up as written by a chap called Ebenezer Picken. Wow. Which, again, wonderful name. And he turned out to be the son of a silk weaver in Paisley, my hometown. So it was just perfect. Although it turned out it was just a poem. So I actually wrote the music for that. Proud to say I created the music and set Woo Me Again by Ebenezer Picken to that. So nobody would, I mean, not a lot of people know about Ebenezer Picken. No. Who was a contemporary of Tannahill.
Ah, okay, right.
Yeah, I mean, all the Paisley poets, there's so many of them. I think the life of a Paisley poet in the 18th, 19th century was quite fun. You know, they just went to pubs and wrote poems and entertained each other.
Radical Renfrew as the kind of movement became known, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And there are so many Scottish songs out there, traditional ones that people just don't know about. You know, even some of the ones that Burns wrote, a lot of people think of him primarily as a poet and not some of the songs that he would work on as well, or at least archive and work on.
Aye, or borrowed.
Oh, borrowed, yeah. It was one for that.
He was a collector.
And can people, you talked about playing in various bars and things in Glasgow. Are you still playing live? Can people see you live?
Well, I had a few gigs this year. I mean, obviously the last few years were rubbish for everybody. I was in the Langton Jazz Festival in June. That's over in Kirkcaldy, and then I was up in Oban and had a few other gigs here and there. Melrose actually was my last one in October there. I'm not yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to get some more bookings next year. I mean, I'd really like to do some more festivals, and really particularly with the Scottish set, because I kind of tell the stories of the songs in between times, and I think people like that, you know, getting a little bit of the sort of history and the context. So yes, if anybody is listening, I am available for bookings.
Well, and that one of the great things that's been happening is that festivals are opening up again, and there's lots of small, not just small, but there's lots of festivals in and around Scotland now. So yeah, hopefully someone will hear this and get in touch.
Yeah, there's so many, and there's so many of them are being a bit more eclectic in their
Yeah.
kind of choice of artists as well.
Well, I find that with music in general, that, you know, there is collaboration and crossover of genres, and, you know, people, you know, like yourself looking at jazz, but also looking at folk tradition. I mean, that's happening elsewhere too. Is that what you've found?
Yeah, well, the ones that I've been looking at, yes. I mean, there's the Solas Festival up in Perthshire, and down the Rabbit Hole and
Yeah.
Belladrum. I mean, it's all quite kind of broad selections of music that they're involving. I'm naming those because those are three that I'm going to be applying to. So maybe somebody will be listening.
And are there plans for further releases after Forever Autumn?
So there's one actually coming out on Thursday, which I'd like to mention, which is a little bit of fun. This was something that we created as a lockdown project. It was me and a great blues guitarist who we've never actually met, but we kind of created this song during lockdown last year, and it's a Christmas song called "Don't Go Drinking with Santa." So it's really just a bit of festive fun, but it's also part of a compilation that's come out of Paisley artists, all original songs, all Christmas themed, called Pass the Parcel Paisley. And if it does raise any money, it's all going to the food bank project in Paisley. So don't go drinking with Santa. It's not like any of my other stuff, but it's just a bit of fun, and it's a great blues guitarist on there as well, Paul Black.
And there's this does seem to be a lot of not just music, but other art and culture happening in and around Paisley these days.
Oh, absolutely. You know, well, there was obviously the bid to be the city of culture, which didn't come off, which in a way, you know, you kind of think maybe we kind of dodged a bullet, because, you know, that would not have been the year to be the poor Coventry that got that. But yes, I mean, it's just unfortunate that all the venues have been closed just now, because they're all being refurbished, the museum and the town hall and the art centre. But once they open, I think there's going to be quite an explosion of good things going on around here. I think
I've been to the Book Festival a couple of times, and it's always brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's happening again in March. But yes, I mean, I think Paisley always kind of pulled above its weight in terms of actors and writers and musicians that we've produced.
No, I think that's right.
As a proud buddy.
Well, Evelyn, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, Alistair. It's been great. I hope people enjoyed it. And
this is Evelyn Laurie's cover of one of my favourite songs. It's Wichita Lineman.